On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, the number of licks it takes to get to center of a Tootsie Pop, that's how many players the Avalanche are getting back Friday night against the Capitals. Let's talk about that and their win over the Los Angeles Kings. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. It's always appreciated. And make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and make sure you're subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. And when you do chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, we get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast, like we will do a little bit later when we get their predictions for this game against the Caps. And we're going to run this one for a little while. Who's your starter? Because last time I have not looked yet. I sent that out earlier and I have not looked. So when we get to the end of the episode, we'll see who people on Subtext want as their starter for the Capitals game, because they were all wrong, us included. I think we both were thinking it'd be Annunen. I kind of floated out there. Wouldn't be surprised if it was Georgie. It was. So we'll see what the subtexters think for this game against Capitals. Who's their starter? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
I think my starter from this point forward is going to be Charmander, and I'll never be let down.
There you go. All right. So we'll tackle that in a little bit. We'll get to this Kings game first. We might as well start there. And because we didn't do a show yesterday because that game just ended so late. we just took that night, and we'll talk about it now. But the thing, I guess we're kind of wrapping up or rolling our morning leftovers into this at the same time, right? Because, it seems, if you're looking on YouTube, first bullet we got there is it seems the Avs seem to have a method. And that method is just stay afloat for the first period and then turn on the juice for the second and the third. And that's been the case for the past few games here. It's worked, but you don't. This goes back to last year, Kyle. You don't want that to be how you're winning games. It's nice, and it's good that you can have that in your back pocket of, hey, if we're down, we're never out of it. That's been the MO for the Avalanche for a while. They're never out of games. We know that. And they don't want to do this. This is not ideal. This is not like, it's not like Wade Boggs. Wade Boggs would spot you that first strike. He would never swing at the first strike. He'd just let you have it. And he's got a career, whatever his average is, well over 300, I'm sure. But, it's not like the Avalanche are doing that. It's not like they're going to spot you a goal or two. You can't do that in the sport of hockey. Whatever it is, I would love to see that stop, because the rest of the game and everything else is going very well from minutes 20 through 60. They're doing very well.
I'm going to just chalk it up to, like, all the players on the team. We're about the same age. I think we all just grew up watching the Power Rangers, where every episode was they get beat up and then they don't win until they become a Megazord. And I feel like that's the Avalanche, and that's what they do. And it's not good. It's not healthy yet. I mean, they find ways to make it work, but it's not sustainable. And it's aggravating, but then it's hard to say, like, this is such a bad thing when you lock it down in such a way that you did in that second period against the Kings. Like, not to register a single shot the entire period, that's a feat. That's incredible. And to which I say kudos, stick taps, applause. But, why don't you just give them one or two shots in that second period, and then maybe one or two shots in the first, and then play really good in the first? I mean, a first period, a really good first period would be, it's on my Christmas list, and it's something I could be thankful for.
Yeah. I mean, 0 shots, and this is a good team.
Yeah.
The Kings are a good team. This is not the bottom of the standings team that did
second
that
in their division.
Yeah, and one of the highest scoring teams in the league right now as well. So, I mean, even if it was one of the lower teams in the league, it's still an NHL team that you did that to. I'm sorry, but the fact you did it against them, a team that has been scoring very well, you didn't even surrender a shot. And that, you're right, man. Like that's where you kind of take these first periods with, okay, like when I say you're doing some things like so well outside of that first period, and you're winning games now, you can say like, okay, like sure, we need to fix that, but I don't want to, but I can live with it for now, because you do feel like that will correct itself. You don't feel like that's going to be the MO for the rest of the season, but for right now, these recent games, that is the Avalanche method. And it's, I don't know if it's, these teams come out, you saw it in these last 3 games, and they really force the issue against the Avalanche. They really forecheck hard on them. They're heavy on the puck. They don't really give them time and space. And then they just come out in the second, and it's just like, they just get away from that. And I think some of it has to do with the way the Avalanche play. It's tough for a opponent to play that way for 60 minutes because it's exhausting, because the Avalanche they don't stop. They just keep going up and down the ice, up and down the ice. And I think there's got to be some fatigue, especially when you're playing in Colorado, that catches up with the opponent. And the Avs just methodically continue. We've said this so many times before. They just play their game, and eventually they're the ones that are going to have the advantage. And you've seen that the last 3-4 years.
And it's extremely frustrating when you have these efforts, because it became costly against Winnipeg. That was it. Your mistake in that first period is what ended up losing you the game. But the Avs come out like Sour Patch Kids, and like against the Kings, that first period they look lost, aloof. Another 1-shot, 1-goal on Georgie, and then you're just trying to get through. And I mean, it was rough to watch. And then how can you say this is a bad team effort when in the second period, like a couple games ago, they had exploded for 5 goals in the second? Like, you have second periods that are just monumental after such a terrible, like, Poots Magoots first period. Like, it's aggravating to watch. But then, like, they're climbing out of, they're above 500. They look complete, and help is on the way. This team is going to get better statistically and talent wise, but and it's not like this is new. They know this is a problem. They've talked about it being a problem, and it's still a problem.
Yeah. And like we said, the rest of it's good. And you had Mikko Rantanen with a hat trick of the natural variety. And when they had the open net, and he kind of fumbled the puck a little bit, and he pushed it over to, I think it was Lehkonen, who he sailed the shot wide. I'm like, they're tying this thing. You had an open net, and you messed it up. And all right, now the Kings are going to tie this, and they're going to go into overtime, and they're going to take the extra point. I was thinking worst case scenario. That did not happen. Mikko gets another shot at it, another crack at it, and he gets his hat trick. Second of the season for him. I think this was his 9th of his career. Now leading the league in goals. So it's funny. And we go back to, the first game of the season is when he had his first hat trick. And right then everyone's like, contract. And then a little bit of a Mikko lull. Nobody's talking about the contract anymore. And now he has a game like this, and now we all want to throw the contract back out there again. I still hold firm of like, this is not like, just because he had this game, his agent's not calling up Chris McFarland. Hey, he just had a hat trick. Let's up the ante. Like, no, it's not how it works. They know what they have in Mikko Rantanen. It's no shock, no surprise to them. Like, he does stuff like this. But you can take what he's doing over the totality of the season. It's not one game that's going to move the needle. It's what he's doing over the course of this season. And the longer this season goes, where he's at the top of the standings, in goals scored, and points, that's how you can kind of formulate, if you're his agent, and be like, look what he's doing for you this season. Let's get a nice little dollar amount here going, that we think is fair. But is it one game that's going to turn the tide? No, it's a collection of games, and he's been doing that this year.
And if you watch Avs fans on social media, I'm surprised half of them aren't out day to day as well with knee-jerk injuries, because it goes from "What's wrong with Mikko Rantanen" to "How can we afford Mikko Rantanen?" It's
Yes.
it's day in, day out. It changes,
Mhm.
but I mean, you got Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, and Mikko Rantanen leading in some category statistically in the league right now. And on the outside looking in, everybody says this Avalanche team is struggling, but they're not, and they're getting better. And
Yeah.
there's a lot more this team could put together if we could just get over the first.
Yeah, no, because I really like what they're doing. I like what they're
I
doing
do too.
defensively. Obviously, not just 0 shots on goal that proves that. I think just feel like they're playing very well from top to bottom. They just got to get going a little bit earlier, which is not news to them. So have been some moves made, and it's going to be a big day on Friday. You are getting 3 huge pieces back. Let's talk about that. Talk about what the lines could look like, and how we think this game against the Capitals is going to go. So we'll do all that stuff coming up next. All right, new sponsor here, that is Mint Mobile, and we love a great deal as much as the next guy, but we're not going to become Vegas Golden Knight fans to go get a deal. I know that. We're not going to do it just to save a few bucks. But no, with Mint Mobile, it's got to be easy. There's no hoops. There's no BS. And when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month, while the purchase of a 3-month plan, we kind of called them on it. But it turns out, Kyle, it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time you spend on hold while waiting to break up with your old provider. So get started today at mintmobile.com/lockedonnhl. And there you will see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnhl. That is mintmobile.com/lockedonnhl. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnhl. $45 upfront payment is required, which is equivalent to $15 per month, and no new customers on a first month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan, and additional taxes, fees, and restrictions do apply. And you can see Mint Mobile for details on all of that. Also brought to you by Omaha Steaks, and nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. And this year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with the promo code NHL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts, at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with the promo code NHL and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at Omaha Steaks, OMAHA steaks.com, and an extra $30 off with the promo code NHL. Minimum purchases apply, and that's over at omahasteaks.com. All right. I can't think of a big of a Friday. Maybe if, there was I'm sure there was a Stanley Cup game that the Avalanche played, and that was on a Friday. Remove that. This is one of the bigger Fridays, regular season Fridays I can remember in a very long time. And it's funny how it just worked out this way, Kyle, because we were all circling this date on the calendar, and you didn't really think it was going to be only, or you did think it was going to be only Val Nichushkin coming back. Maybe, I think we even threw it out in the offseason, would be cool if him and Landeskog came back on the same day. And as time has gone on, we knew that really wasn't going to be the case. But, man, you're getting Jonathan Drouin, Miles Wood, and Nichushkin back all in the same game at home. That place is going to be crazy. That place is going to be going wild.
Yeah, it's a great way to end a homestand, honestly, because having Nuke come back to Ball Arena and having everybody return, it's going to restore some energy and some swagger to this team. And honestly, this might be the answer to the first period woes that we've been talking about.
Could be. Very well could be. We had a question from, I think it was Heather on Subtext. It was at the beginning of the week. She was asking about like the lines then, and we were like, well, we'll hold off on that. We'll see how this week goes. And I think now is a good time to really kind of look into that, because it's interesting. A lot of people want to throw like Jonathan Drouin back on that top line. I wouldn't be against that, but I don't know if I do right now. I really like how Lehkonen is playing with Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen on that top line. And I wouldn't really break that up. And I wouldn't break it up for that reason, because they're playing well. And I think Drouin, he wasn't having the best season before he got injured. And I'm not saying like that was going to be how it continued for the year. I think he just got off to a slow start, like so many of the Avalanche did. But he's coming back from an injury. Do you want to throw him back on that top line right off the rip and be like, hey, go skate with Nathan MacKinnon and keep up? You know, like, so I know if he's just in a second line role, that's still a very big role, but maybe just for the first game and just easing him back into things. I don't know if I throw him on the top line, but I think more than that, it's just how Lehkonen is playing up there with those guys.
Yeah, if I was putting these lines together, I would be very conscious of how this team is flowing right now and the energy that Lehkonen is providing and the names that are returning. And I kind of would double down on this. You're asking what these lines would look like. I would keep Lehkonen on that top line, have him be left wing, and I would put Drouin and Nuke on the wings of Middlestead on that second line.
Yeah. I think that's what if Drouin's not going to be on the top, it's basically Mikko and MacKinnon on the top line, and it's Middlestead and Nichuskin on the top line. And then who's on the left wing for those lines?
Yeah.
If it's not Lehkonen on the top line, then it's Drouin, and Lehkonen goes down to the second line, and you just switch those guys off. And maybe you do that throughout the game. If things are not going well and you need to shake things up, maybe you throw Drouin back up there on the top line and Lehkonen down on the second line, because I always liked splitting up Lehkonen and Nichuskin, because those are your best forecheckers.
Yeah. And
to do that 2 lines in a row just makes it that much more difficult for the opponent to really kind of get things going for 2 lines. I mean, if you put them on the same line together, that's good too, because that's just a dominant forechecking line. But I like dividing it up a little bit more.
And see, like, I know everybody's focused on like the left wing, but the thing that's really, the more this is going on and the more I'm thinking about it, I really am looking forward to Casey Middlestead with Nuke and what Casey could do having that piece in his arsenal. Because you've seen Casey Middlestead improve the play of everyone that's been around him. And this is like his reward. Congratulations for getting us this far. Here's Valeri Nichushkin. Have fun. Rack up the points. And I think this is going to be something, because this will get you out to a first period. Like, you could really start pushing the power in the first period if you can get those 2 working. It doesn't matter who's on that left side. I think this is the next tandem you need to keep an eye on.
It's a good point. And as well as Middlestead's been playing this year, he's been doing it without who his regular line mates are going to be. So that's exciting to see. Hey, like, you're going to be with Nichuskin, who's on the other side of you might change, and that's fine. But to see what he can do with guys that he's going to be playing with night in and night out, and they can get on the same page and they can get some cohesion going, that is really exciting. I know it's just exciting to get those 3 guys back, but to finally be able to kind of flesh out your team and know what you're going to have night in and night out. That's the really exciting part for Avalanche fans, because they haven't had it yet this year. You've had injuries again. It seems like the injury wall is stopped a little bit earlier than normal. We're in the middle of November, when usually we just seem to be coming up with injuries weekly in seasons past. But right now, all you have is Colton out, and obviously Landeskog, and that's really it. So if this team can stay healthy as it is, and Colton should be back within a month or so, and you can stay relatively healthy after that. I know injuries are going to happen, pop up here and there. Said something about Taves the other day, where he's dealing with a lower body injury, and Bednar just came out and flat out said, like, that's going to be bothering him all year long. I don't think he said exactly what it was. And I don't think it's anything that's going to keep him out, but it's just going to be one of those nagging things. You're going to have that. It's a hockey season. It's a brutal sport. You're going to be banged up, but can you play through it? Seems like he's going to be able to do that, unless whatever it is gets knocked into, or he takes an ugly hit, or whatever the case may be. But for the most part, getting these 3 guys back gets you relatively as healthy as you can be, save for 1 guy and a half with Landy.
And it feels like, honestly, this team was, we knew this going in through the offseason, that this was going to be a patchwork team. And if they could just survive to this point, you're going to be all right. And it feels like that initial new hire probationary period is over for this team. And now everybody's coming back, and you can see really, like, everything you've learned in this rough little stretch, you can really start taking those tools and expounding on them with the talent that is coming back. And I'm excited to see, because we talked about there's really no cupcakes in November, what this team can do against some superior talent that they're not having to play down to. Another problem of the Avalanche, playing down to their opponent. They're going to be playing up every game, and this is what you want to see. And the lineup, with the exception of Landeskog and Ross Colton, this is the lineup you want to see.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as that's your top 6, and then your bottom 6. I think O'Connor is on that third line.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Wood.
Yep.
I think you got to put him on the third line. And then who's centering that third line right now? Is it Parker Kelly? Is it? I mean, I don't know.
I would give it to Parker Kelly.
I think so.
He's looked good enough to me where I mean, he hasn't shown up on the stat sheet, but you really, with that top 6, you really don't need that third line doing too much. You just don't need them doing things that will result in minus.
Well, I mean, how you're saying, like, with Middlestat going to benefit even more from Nichuskin being there. I think Parker Kelly could benefit from Logan O'Connor and Miles Wood just being speed demons on his wings, and maybe that opens things up for him, because O'Connor kind of he's going to command people, like, respecting his speed, and people are going to have to respect Miles Wood just being a bull in a china shop. That might open up a lane right in the slot for Parker Kelly. And he's had some shots there.
Yeah.
He's had some good shots there. So, I think for now, I think that he's probably your third line. Because what are your options? Your other options are Kivi Ranta, doesn't really play center. Ivan, maybe. I mean, they did send Ivan and Kovalenko down technically right now. I would think and they waived Wagner.
Mm-hmm.
I would suspect he clears, and then Tynan is still up with them. So Tynan will probably play in this game, and you got to call up one guy between Ivan and Kovalenko. Both those guys are kind of deserving. I think both those guys have played very well.
I think I'd pull up Kovy.
Oh man, that's a tough call. Because I love how Kovalenko's playing. Love it. But I really like how Ivan's been playing as well.
I like how Ivan's been playing too, but I think Kovalenko, they've invested a little bit more and expect a little bit more out of him. And I feel like this is one of his moments to, like, if he comes up and really isn't, like, blowing things away in his production. I think this is an Ivan opportunity. Like, I think it's Kovalenko that gets the call because I feel like they're trying to maneuver him in a role that they want him to be in the future, and I believe it starts this season.
Yeah. So then your third line, or excuse me, your fourth line is kind of looking as Kiviranta, Tynan, Kovalenko,
which is perfect with me.
which is good.
I can roll with that.
Yeah. So, I think this is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun to watch. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of rust from the Nichuskin, but not only that on the second line, what he can do on the power play.
Yeah.
And the Avs power play has been very good.
Except for that Kings game.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was really, really brutal. That was the worst I've seen them. And I'll give them a dud because it's been looking really good for this season. But that game specifically, throw it away.
Yeah.
And maybe that is just perfect timing for him to come back and kind of, impose his will in front of the net because it's needed. It's needed there. So going to be fun. Going to be fun to watch. What are we thinking for this game? What do our subtext people feel in terms of a prediction and who's going to be in net? Let's talk about that after this. Let's hear from FanDuel and get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. And then the FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, so never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so I'll load up the Subtext crew here, and before I get to them, who do you put in for net for this game, sir?
They apparently didn't listen to me because I said it would be dumb to put Georgie in there, and up until that first shot that went in, yeah, it was. And I mean, I really did not like the call for Georgie being in there. I did not, and I feel like that could have been Juice's game, and this would have been Georgie's game, but flip it around. This is Juice. There is no, again, read my lips, there is no reason for Georgie to be in net against the Capitals.
I think the only reason is they are looking at him as he's our ace, and your ace is going to take the lion's share of the starts. So yeah, I mean, 5 in a row is not crazy for an A1 starter, and if they want him to be that, he's going to be in net again. If they don't feel like Annunen is, they're not going to split time as much as we want them to split time, it's going to be Georgiev again. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I mean, what you got, we always say from an Avalanche point of view, you just want good enough goaltending or average goaltending, or maybe a little bit better than average goaltending. Have you not been getting that lately from Georgiev? Have you not?
I mean, those
you have
that second period for the Kings game did not help his save percentage. I mean, he went with an 867, but
I know,
but again, this is also the same Georgiev that looked absolutely broken to start the season. And you got it, like, you have two serviceable goalies. Just because you have one with a hot hand, you can't immediately start just feeding him until you break him again, and then we're right back to where we were. You have to balance this out. You can't keep just saying we got to ride the hot hand and freeze the other goalie that has given this team hope and has flipped the season around. Because with Georgie and net, this was a dire situation to start the season.
Sure was.
And they had to go to Juice and elevate his game to where it was, oh no, he is 1A. And what's his reward for it? Sitting on the bench while watching Georgie still let in that first shot. And the Avalanche have to work their way through it. Like, ace isn't the word I would use when he started the word
no.
the season under a different 3-letter A word. But like, I get he's looking better. Not great. Still
and
got
I think what they're getting out of him is what they want. Like that's what they feel like. Hey, with however how our team is put together, we can outscore teams. That's not really what you want to. You want to have a guy that's putting up Hellebuck numbers right now, but that's not feasible.
I don't want to wait a week and a half before I see Juice again. Like
I know.
it's been too long. We're
I
talking
know.
like
It was
NHL
weird.
games, but like actual days, we're looking at almost 2 weeks. Like, come on.
Yeah. And the whole 900 thing, and I know a lot of people hang their hat on that. And what was he, 870 something in
Well,
this game?
he was literally at the bottom of the league in almost every stat possible.
867. Okay. Yeah.
Like he
It was
had
867. So again, it just goes back to my point of like, do the Avalanche look at that and with the number of shots that the Kings had on net, which was not a lot, do the Avalanche look at that and be like, that is good enough? That's good enough for what we want to do. It's
what
feel like
cost
we
you
can win
against
that
Winnipeg.
way. I don't know if it's a winning formula for playoff hockey. It's probably not, but for the regular season, I just like where they are right now and the cap. I don't know what they can really do.
Well, where they are right now is despite of Georgie's start to the year. It wasn't.
I know, but at some point we got to throw that away. At some point we got to throw out that start to the season because it wasn't good for a lot of people. Like we're not holding the start against the terrible start against Makar. We're not holding it against Mikko.
Because they're leading the league in their stats.
I understand that, but like we've moved on from that, and you're right that Georgiev has not like removed that and then ascended to the top of the goalie statistics. I get that, but he's moved on enough from it where we can be like that was an anomaly.
He's still letting in 1 shot, 1 goal against the Kings. That's his most recent outing.
He is.
And like it's still like with a win, you spin it one way. If they lost that game against the Kings, it's absolutely put Juice in net. Georgie's broken again. Like that's how Georgie's season is. Like the next time he loses, doing that 1 shot, 1 goal and floundering and just jumping forward for no reason and playing out of position, which they call out on the TNT broadcast. Mm-hmm. And when he loses those games, I don't know if he's got the thing. Everybody pulls up the stats. Like then it's a damning call on him. But when he wins, I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be okay. But it's still the same Georgie. The outcome's different because the team's playing different.
Well, what do subtext people think? Vargar says they're going to start Georgiev again. The Avs want this to work like the Godfather. The team insists upon itself. He doesn't like it. He says it's a bad choice. Just like keeping Val after the Seattle incident. C-Mac is losing me, is what Vargar says. People are still going to be upset about the Val thing. And if you are, you are. But you fall on one of two camps for that. So yep. and Vargar clearly falls on that one side of it. Lisa says Annunen needs a start. I like to think we see him tomorrow, but I also thought that about the last game. I expect the Avs to be fired up, getting 3 guys back in the lineup. I think they need to use that energy and get to the Caps early. If they do, I like the Avs to win 5-3. Avs need to watch out for Dylan Strome and Connor McMichael. Connor McMichael is playing excellent hockey. In addition to Ovechkin. Lindgren should be in net, which I also think benefits the Avs. What's she say? Oh, you might not like this, Kyle. Yeah, you're not going to like this. She says, side note, Alabama native Nick Dowd will be in the lineup despite breaking his nose last night. Can't keep those Alabama boys down. Well, maybe that I don't know if he played for Alabama or she's just talking Alabama.
Yep. He is from Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay,
I know Nick Dowd well.
I just saw Alabama and I was thinking she's going for the university, which would
some
not have
insightful Caps takes there, Lisa.
Mark says 4-2 Avs. He thinks Georgiev starts in net again. Kay says, I really hope they start Juice. seem to have a decent 1A, 1B. Use them like it. I see them closing out the homestand with another win, 5-2, with a new lineup full of firepower. Adam says Annunen gets the start. Drouin gets an assist. Val gets booed, then gets a dirty goal, then gets celebrated. That Rocky 4 right there is what it's going to be.
Yep.
Booed, and then he starts playing well, and people love him. Let's see. Avs fan forever. He thinks Annunen gets in net. Who else here? Cody. I think in the eyes of Bednar, Georgiev is back in to being the starter. I'd get the dust off Annunen personally, but in reality, it's probably going to be Georgiev in net. And then Madam Battleaxe says Annunen must be in net, all capitals, 3 exclamation points. And then she also, I'm going to agree with her on this one, LOC gets a goal for this game.
It's about time.
You're right. Came close the other day.
Like to Vargar's point, and honestly, the overarching loud sentiments of the citizens of Subtextia, I think the Avalanche need to stop playing with beakers and experiments and get back to putting the best roster together and winning hockey games. Like, just put your best guys out there, and you got to manage this roster better. And this is where Juice needs to start. I don't care what Georgie's doing. If you want him to keep doing what he's doing, give him a night off and don't break him, because he is one loss away from being right back to where he was.
It depends on how that loss goes. Because he had the loss against Winnipeg, and that was not a bad game for him. So if it's a loss where it's just Vegas opening night, yeah. I think you're right back there where now it's in your head again. But I think he's over that stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. He's over it for now. We'll see where this goes. I'm not. You hold my feet to the fire. I think Georgiev gets another start. I do.
Atrocious.
And I'm not saying I agree with it, but I think that's where they're headed. So we'll see. We'll find out probably in the afternoon. Other than that, though, we're going to wrap this thing up. We'll see how things are going after the game. Maybe we'll do a recording after that, see how it goes, depending on how the game goes. But maybe we'll be back for a special Saturday episode. But for now, thank you for tuning in and making this one your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. And yeah, people, you just made it through another 24 hours. Or it's one day closer to Sidney Crosby being in an Avalanche sweater.
And Erik Karlsson.
Him too. Let's throw him in the mix.